You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a Star Citizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium games, Star Citizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radegast, and join us as we go Beyond the Verse.
Launch sequence activated.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Beyond the Verse, Star Citizen podcast. I'm your host, Sulyce, and welcome into episode 63. On this episode, we're covering what seems to have been a very busy week, but when I recap it and I get my agenda notes all set up, it really wasn't that busy. We had an RSI Launcher 2.0.1 release that helped a little bit of our login issues, but a small update. We had a naming convention change from Alpha 323.2 to 324. And what does that mean to the community and to actual game developers? The significance there. We ended the week with a tech preview that put server meshing in front of the community. We went back into a 322 build, implemented server meshing throughout Stanton and certain sects of Stanton. I'll give my reactions to participating in that last week. And as always, we will end this episode talking about the Inside Star Citizen, that was the weapons content team, and then the Loremakers Community Q&A. So again, it seemed busy. It seemed like there was a lot of dialogue on social media. But again, when you kind of encapsulate it in talking points for a podcast, this should be a fairly quick shot glass of news and analysis. But before we get into that, a quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back. Always awkward for those of you on YouTube because we just go straight into this next segment. But I hope this finds you well. Since we last met last Friday late night, we had Father's Day. So I just wanted to wish everyone out there who is a father a very, very happy Father's Day. And for those of us who have fathers still existing or those looking down upon us, happy Father's Day to your family as well. I had a great one. It started off with Saturday. I attended the Bar Citizen here in Austin, Texas, and it was great. I got to see a lot of my friends from other organizations, from Inside Star Citizen, from Star Citizen. Met some new ones, had a few join Sole Provision, who's already been participating and communicating within our organization, so that's exciting. Saw Jake, saw Galactopedia. That is probably the 10th time I have done that on show. Galactica. It's very confusing because of Galactopedia and Galactica. Okay, no excuses. That is just hilarious to me. But I say great friend. I really am friends with her. Man, that is hilarious. Had a great time. Got myself the Xi'an pyramid puzzle, which I've already looked at in game and kind of messed around with it. Very reminiscent of the Banu Cube, if you're familiar with that from a couple months or years ago at this point. But had a good time there. Sunday, of course, Father's Day, very chilled. My family took me out to all my favorite restaurants for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I am not complaining at all. Kind of a community update from like a Sole Provision perspective. We implemented, or I guess I started a book review for Star Citizen, and it's not actual Star Citizen content, but I simply asked my community. I asked a poll on our Discord, hey, who would be interested in reading books to kind of get us ready for Squadron 42 and the rest of Star Citizen. And I got flooded, whether it was on X.com or if it was on the Discord itself. I got flooded with recommendations. And one of the very first recommendations, I actually don't have the book near me. That's a fail. One of the very first recommendations was from Jake Bradley himself. who recommended Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Read the review on it and kind of I wanted to gauge if it was something I'd be interested in, and like on the cover it basically references that it's a mix of like Hunger Games, Divergent, that kind of like fight to exist type of book, but it actually takes place on Mars. So started that book club, if you will. I'm calling it The Ark, and I think I'm proud of that name. So inside of Star Citizen lore, you've got the Ark, which is just very quickly, there's a whole lore piece on it, which we can always dive into later, but it's essentially like a massive library that's up in space. It's all where all the records are kept. And so I'm naming our book review The Ark, and what I'm intending to do with this is just having a place where like-minded individuals, friends can read subject matter that has to do with space, has to do with some of the political intrigue that Star Citizen and Squadron 42 will bring to us. But I'm also going to have like a discussion on the first Wednesday of every month. So we will talk about the book in completion and then preview our choice, or actually vote and preview the choice for like the next month. So July 3rd, which is that Wednesday, we're going to recap Red Rising. I'm going to ask the community, and they're all going to be part of the actual podcast. It'll be a group discussion, a bonus episode, if you will. But we'll talk about our reactions to Red Rising, and then we'll talk about what book we're reading in July. And then we'll meet again in August, so the first Wednesday of August. I'm personally excited about that. I'm a huge avid reader. My undergrad at Texas A&M was English and history, so it's right up my alley. But yeah, I'm not going to actually talk about the book itself here on these main episodes. It's not Star Citizen, it's not Squadron 42, and I want to respect you as the listener that is what you're here for. So without further ado, let's get into From the Community.
Incoming message.
And I want to start, I feel like I haven't done this in a while, but I want to start with, again, celebrating and saying thank you so much to our 8 monthly supporters on Spotify. If you would like to support this podcast, any monetary funds go straight back into the show, whether it's sound quality, visual quality. For instance, I just got the GoPro Hero 12. I'm going to use that video recording device for content, for extra YouTube videos. And I'm going to see if I can upgrade kind of the podcast video, because right now I'm using a Logitech Brio, which is nice. I think it looks good. But maybe this can be another way of enhancing that as well. So this monetary decision that these 8 individuals, have given are contributing to that. My next purchase is going to be replacing the Go XLR to probably the Rodecaster Pro, because we're starting to lose support for Go XLR. In fact, the latest update kind of jacked with mine. So I need to make sure that our editing at the end of this podcast is good. So again, the 8 individuals: Dustin Thames, Will Spicer, Dakota Riley, Brandon, Marcus, Jacob, Captain Trips, and Dreamer of Days. Thank y'all so very much. Much love. Okay, so again, at the end of every episode, we ask a Q&A and a poll. So last episode 62, called Alien Week in Star Citizen, the poll I asked was, what was your favorite segment from this week's episode? I don't always ask questions about the podcast itself. I mainly ask about the content, the subject matter, things that excite you, but sometimes it's really nice for me to get a feedback mechanism in place for the podcast. You are always welcome to email us. That's contact@beyondtheversehq.com. I take all feedback very seriously. This is produced for you, and I mean that sincerely. I hope you've gathered that general sentiment from my tweets and everything else I do. I do this for you. It's fun to talk, but I don't really listen to myself talk. It's for you. So my question I asked, I'll share my screen for those of you on the tubes. I asked, what is your favorite segment from this week's episode? And I think the segments last week: Alien Week, XenoThreat, Patch 323.1 Alpha, the Drake Ironclad Q&A, and the Exploitation Reaction. Okay. People love drama, and I don't mean that in a bad way or a derogatory way. Like, people love the drama because that went down last week. If you want to hear more information, go check out episode 62. But CIG banned 600 accounts, more than 600 accounts. And so there was a lot of dialogue, good, bad, and different. There was a lot of dialogue on social media expressing reactions to this decision. And I'll be honest with you, it blew up. It's one of my most viewed TikTok clips. So on TikTok, it's got like 1,600 views, very engaged, a lot of Q&A in that dialogue. And then, of course, on Twitter, the same thing. One of my most engaging tweets. People wanted to share their opinions. And for the most part, everybody's basically like-minded. And that is the Q&A. So we'll get into that here in a couple of seconds. But I think everybody is of the same mindset where, hey, good on you, CIG. It shows that you have the tenacity and the discipline to instill that discipline. So we just want to celebrate that. It is dangerous, though. I will say this one last time. It is dangerous, though. Make sure there are guardrails and accuracy in place. I think that's the only thing that the community can ask for is, yes, drop the hammer, but before you do, make sure it's sound. Make sure those decisions are sound. We're not accidentally taking advantage of somebody who might play 12 hours a day. And so they might have billions of UEC, but I'm pretty sure that they have mechanisms in place to measure actual exploitation. These are professionals. So there you go. It's very obvious. 54.5% voted for exploitation reaction, and then it goes down tremendously. So 18.2% voted the Drake Ironclad Q&A, and then 9.1% on all three Alien Week XenoThreat and patch 323.1 alpha. Let's get into the Q&A. Now there's 11 responses here, so I'm gonna go somewhat quick, maybe not respond to every single one of them, but like always, you respond, I read, giving you that courtesy. So here we go. Call Me Teach. Actually, Call Me Teach, one of our brand new members in Soul Provision. So welcome to the family. Welcome to the family. Quote, finally justice prevails. As much fun as it was catching them with Nine Tails NPCs at the TDD, I hope a lesson is learned. Don't ruin the game for all of us because you're not having fun. The sentiment is there. I share that sentiment with you. It's kind of fun. Like, once you identify the exploitation and you know where and how the exploitation is like how it's occurring, it is kind of fun to jack with them. I'm not gonna lie. it's kind of like our own internal loop. But anyways, let's move on. Wandering Marauder. I love it. When the integrity of the game is questioned, you risk alienating your fan base. This can go south quickly. Good on CIG for firmly setting a precedent that they can use for future incidents. Absolutely. Dakota Riley. It feels like justice and relief, but CIG is also partially to blame. The server should be able to recover and become stable now, and the economy will finally balance out to where it should be. Okay, so I actually like the alternative view, and it's not that alternative, but CIG is also partially to blame. I think we talked about it last episode, but yeah, first off, it's an alpha. It wasn't a perfect release. Like, of course, they exploited it because there were gaps in the game loop and in how it was built. Like, all that is true. I think the only thing, and I said it in 62, I'll repeat myself again, I don't remember like clear communication about like, hey, this is happening, don't do it. And again, I think a lot of this is like common sense, but not every gamer has common sense. Common sense is not very common. Just if it wasn't spelled out, like, hey, right now there's an exploitation, like it should have been an announcement, like as you log into the game, and like maybe a window pops up and says, right now, this is bad, don't do it. If you do it, you'll be banned. I feel like there could have been a more proactive upfront communication strategy than just, oh crap, you're banned. And it's not a permanent ban, I'm pretty sure. It's not a perma ban. I think it's like a certain time frame. But maybe more communication up front. I don't know. All right, so we have another quote, and again, I see a bunch of numbers. I don't know. I actually don't know who this is. I don't see a name on it. Dang it! And I feel like I feel like I should know who this is because they lead with I beat Steel, but they actually didn't beat Steel. I published Steel's response first. Anyways, personally, I think the length of suspension is a bit harsh considering the bug literally prevented you from doing consecutive cargo runs. Hopefully they only banned the worst offenders. I agree. Next quote from Anna. Anna or Anna? Feel free. I think we talked earlier on social media. Anna or Anna? Quote, I approve and appreciate the move. I just hope they didn't permaban any of the legit accounts. Oh, and by the way, I did get the Sulin. Thanks for the awesome podcast, Prime Entity. Okay, yeah, so user Prime Entity. I recognize the name as well. So it's funny. We talked about the Sulin. It's not a ship for me, but I think it is a very exciting ship to be a starter. It is. It's nuanced enough. It's so unique that you're going to have a starting experience unlike most others. And it is. It's nice. You get in there and there's multiple layers. There's like hidden compartments to stow things. And it's a really awesome starter ship. Just me, alien cosmetics. It's just not my thing. Maybe one day they'll release an alien ship I actually like. Let's keep going. Dreamer of Days. Quote, good. The servers struggle as it is, and all the extra stuff to track made it worse, plus, the ethical implications. As an aside, compare the Sulin to the Slave One Boba Fett ship. Yeah, that's a great pull. That is a great pull. So in Star Wars, Boba Fett, his ship is very much like that. It's weird how he gets in it and how it takes off and lands, and that's actually a really good pull. All right, we got Dan O. Quote, I think this is the correct response from CIG. It shows they have an expectation for how players should respect the game. Also shows they have a pretty good logging in place to track it down. Yeah, in my experience with Q&A, like the Q&A teams and basically the data mining teams that exist in gaming studios, they literally track everything. 100%. Now, are they looking at each individual's player in their decisions? No. But if they wanted to gauge metrics and say, where is everybody at? Where is like we call it a heat map. Where's like the heat map of players in the community? Where are they mostly going to? If you take a massive planet like Microtech, you can actually heat map Microtech and say the majority of players are in these areas, and these are like the cold areas, the cold hot areas are where we probably should put secret stuff, because a lot of gamers don't go in those areas. They can track literally everything. Josh Bradshaw, quote, I feel they handled the situation properly. It does make me glad that the accounts were wrongfully suspended were able to be corrected. I praise the team and what they did. Next quote, Whack Attack. Quote, initially opposed. It's a heavy hand for an alpha, but I'm glad. We need a stance against cheating, so set a precedent now. Allow appeals, warn and temporary ban, but in the end, cheating has no place here. I love the dichotomy of that post. I think it's well balanced. I do. I don't know if I'm initially opposed. I think I initially am like, oh crap, because a lot can go wrong when you ban 600 people. So I think I was like initially shocked, maybe initially had a bunch of questions. But I think I'm actually initially supportive, like ban and then be like, okay, well, maybe we ban the wrong people. Here's your account back. As long as they make it right. I think you have to ban in the macro, right? Ban in the macro and then handle the onesies, twosies to get accounts back in. I think that's the scalable way. And then you mature the processes to identify the macro so you don't have to sure it up in the past, like later on. Okay. A lot of work talk. I'm sorry. Who did I just read? Mac Attack. All right. So 2 more quotes. Sean Donovan. I think that the offenders who got suspended and not banned are the lucky ones. Ruining and taking control of the game via bugs is not okay, and CIG did good. P.S. The ship comparison was an estimate. Yes. So if I remember correctly, Sean was the individual that like 2 weeks ago compared the Caterpillar with the Drake Ironclad, and so we took a couple seconds and like looked at the differences between the two. Yep. Just again, I want to say I was not trying to attack you. That's what I do. that's what I do. I see something, and if it makes me question, I'm gonna go seek it out, and hopefully we appreciate that here for this podcast. I try to go to the source. and get us the most updated information. So not an attack on your comparison. I actually think it was a fun comparison to make. Last quote, Sasquatch Rumble. It sets a firm precedent that says CIG isn't messing around with exploiters. I'm not sure how long the suspensions last, but reoffenders should be permabanned in my opinion. 100%. I have zero patience for people that go back and do this again. They already got banned once. They should probably play it very safe, knowing that their account is permanently marked and flagged as an exploiter. Just be smart. Just be smart about it. Okay, thank y'all so much for the engagement. That's 2 weeks in a row. I think last week we had 9 responses on the Q&A. This is 11, so very engaging posts. Thank you so much. Keep it going, and we will have a fun first segment every single podcast. Let's get into This Week in Star Citizen. Here we go. Happy Monday, everyone. The community has truly stirred up a hornet's nest with the Overdrive initiative over the past few weeks, and now XenoThreat is striking back with full force. They have deployed extensively into the stand system, and we need your help to drive them back through the jump gate. Keep an eye on your contracts manager for a priority mission from Rowan Dooley, and come prepared for a tough fight. For more information, visit the XenoThreat Incursion landing page, which let me actually open that up because I want to talk about my reactions to that. So stand by. This weekend, we kicked off another year of Bar Citizen events to come around the globe, starting with 5 incredible meetups near our studios. As always, you all showed up in spades. It was wonderful meeting each and every one of you, hosting trivia challenges, enjoying good drinks, and great company. We can't wait to see you all again in future events. Not near one of our studios, we have quite a few events scheduled throughout the rest of the year, from Taipei to Washington, D.C., PAX TwitchCon, and more. So if you're nearby, come on down and get your hands on the Huia. It's that stupid puzzle. It's a Xi'an word, so I'm going to screw it up. There we go. All right, let's go to the bullet points. This week, Monday, This Week in Star Citizen. Tuesday, the lore post, Loremakers Community questions. We'll talk about that at the very, very end. Thursday, Inside Star Citizen. And then Friday, so today we have the RSI Weekly newsletter, but there was an update that there will not be a Star Citizen live today because of unforeseen circumstances. So that literally just happened. In fact, let me go back to sharing my screen right here. It says on Friday you'll find the weekly newsletter, and then crossed out, they canceled the Star Citizen Live. So nothing to talk about from the Star Citizen Live perspective. Let's get into XenoThreat. So, showing my screen. I got my gear. I did. So again, last week I am engaged in Seattle, Washington. I work all the way until Friday morning. I land mid-Friday. I record my podcast Friday night, and it's Father's Day weekend. So yeah, I just non-stop. But I did have like 2 hours on Saturday. My kids usually take a nap or they have quiet time upstairs in their rooms, and it's my wife's time to kind of read her books. I usually read as well, but I also try to get some gaming in there as well. In those 2 hours on Saturday, I was able to complete the XenoThreat mission and got my XenoThreat gear. So you can do it in 2 hours, or it'll take you 8 hours. Like it is a hit or miss. If you have a fully engaged community, 20, 30, 40 people within the server, it goes fairly quick. But even then, it is pretty intensive, right? So 2 basic missions. You have the supply mission, and then you have the assault mission, right? So the supply mission, pretty straightforward. You're delivering 3 types of boxes from wreckage sites to the INS Jericho, where the Javelin is docked, right? So you're loading up for the fight, right? So the 3 boxes, we talked about it before. Let me see if I can do it by memory. The green is time sensitive, the orange is quantum sensitive, and the blue is like physical banging around sensitive, right? So you get those 3 boxes. You load up a lot. It's like 50, 150, I think, in that order. So you have a lot to deliver. What we found the best ship to use here is the MSR. It's got the most cargo, the quickest transportation without going into quantum traveling. And it's a good for like the pilot and then 2 turret gunners. So you can do some damage, right? So you get there, the 2 turret gunners will get off the ship, they go, and you need a tractor beam. You absolutely cannot pick any of these up by hand. You have to use a tractor beam. So you go in there, you tractor beam onto the MSR. The pilot stays there in case he has to evasive maneuver, and then take off, right? While this is happening, you are getting bombarded by XenoThreat fighters. So you need a security detail, right? You need either, I don't know, Hammerhead or a multi-crew ship or several other smaller fighters to escort. You have to protect the MSR. Also, in this phase, you will have a XenoThreat Idris that will go and attack the Javelin at the INS Jericho. And so, man, it's a lot. It's a lot that's going on, and the coordination required is very challenging. Last night, we had Org Night with Soul Provision, and that was a dynamic we had to consider. We went with this idea that we're going to have a competition. We had like Fire Team Alpha and Fire Team Bravo. Who can deliver the most boxes from point A to point B? And what we realized very quickly is that we needed to work together to defend and to help take out the enemy. Otherwise, it's too chaotic and very difficult to manage. So again, back to last Saturday, not last night. Back to last Saturday, it was a lot of fun. I chose to help defend. We had like 2 or 3 cargo vehicles that were handling the boxes. So I was helping defend. I got in the F7 Alpha Mark II and had a good time traversing the asteroid field, and it was just beautiful, right? And then we would get the message from Rowena Dolly to like go to the INS Jericho, and we had to go and defend, you know, the Javelin. And so it's a very, very, very involved phase. I actually love everything about phase 2, or yeah, I guess phase 2 of the XenoThreat. Supply is a lot of fun. And then you get to number 3. You get to the assault mission. I mean, it's fun. It's dogfighting. It's just more the same. So you have an Idris, and it's around INS Jericho. It's just more the same. And you have to take out the Idris. And so you have 2 options. You can go into the Idris, and you can blow up the Idris like you would a year ago. So you can go and destroy it, or you can actually board it. And so again, last Saturday, we have a member in our organization, Tyrus Rex. We also had Space Tomatoes Community that I had joined in on. And we actually had a Idris from a previous mission attacking this Idris. It was actually really fun. So Idris on Idris, ships everywhere. It was chaotic. It was a lot of fun, but it took forever, even with all the firepower we had. And that's me dying and going and getting an Eclipse and using size 9 torps. It took a long time, and I was with a fully staffed server, or like a big group of the server. Last night, not so much. Like we didn't get really that far because we were stuck kind of in the supply mission, or the supply phase, and then we had to end. So I usually go from like a 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. and call it, because I don't know, like I'm married. I got to get back to my wife. It's a Thursday night, so I have work on Friday mornings. But we had org members stay up until like 2 a.m. and finally finished it. Like, that's ridiculous, y'all. So like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. It's 5 hours. So XenoThreat's awesome. It is awesome. It's engaging, global event, gets the whole server involved. I can't wait for server meshing when we have thousands and thousands of gamers going after this event. Like, can you imagine the pure chaos that in the frame rate drop that is going to happen with XenoThreat? Like, there's a lot that needs to be addressed before we can get really excited about it, mainly because of the desync, mainly because of frame rates dropping. But otherwise, it is a very exciting time for Star Citizen. So go and do it. Go get your gear. Go get your armor. Good luck to you. Join an org if you're having a hard time now getting the armor, because it's a lot of work. Real quick before we move on, I know this is happening in real time, but I think we covered most of this Friday night, last episode. So I don't really want to go through notes or releases or... No, I think we're good here. Okay, so really quick, I have two very, very fast updates, and I'll just keep sharing my screen. So quickly, we had June 17th, what is that, 5 days ago? So 5 days ago, RSA Launcher 2.0.1 release notes. It fixed a lot of crash issues. And so if you remember last episode, I was having a lot of login issues, several issues where I'd go in and just crash. I think I figured out it had to do with the Discord overlay. So I was able to kind of, I'll say Band-Aid or just patch over the issue. But this launcher helped a lot of that. So you can see on the screen it fixed, I don't want to read all of this. There's just so much. I guess I could. Launcher listened to key bindings when not focused. Launcher music did not unmute. So there's like some user interface issues. Fix the name. We don't really care too much about that. Don't really care about that. All right, here we go. This is more important. The other fixed issues. Updated error handling to directly display the type error 2000. Copyright update added don't show this again. Improved base pack corrupted error 3001. Fixed channel getting added to queue being stuck, right? Like these are things that we saw very frequently when 3.23.1 alpha came out. So just want to celebrate that. It's here in the forum categories announcement, so feel free to read this yourself. Staying in this same vein or the same spirit, let's go to the big drama of this past week. Okay. So 3.23.2, this includes like freight elevators, item bank, storage access, personal instance hangers, cargo hauling missions. This is a big update. We've talked about this through nausea in the last several episodes of this podcast. So we know it was going to be big. CIG has decided to move the name from 3.23.2 to 3.24. So it gets its own main release. So again, we've been in 3 for the last several years. So 3. We've been in 3 for the last several years. We're not going to see 4.0 until Pyro. Okay. That aside, this next little decimal point, this 0.24, right? We've had 24 main updates, maybe chapter updates. It depends on how games want to call these updates, but main efforts, right? So 3.23 and all the tech and the visual overlay, like the Squadron 42 transfer of everything. 3.23 was huge, right? Now we got 24 that is bringing actual game loops, major, massive game loops, and what it means for the personal gamer and hangers, etc. So the sentiment here is that they thought it was big enough to call it a new chapter, the 3.24. So I'm going to read the first half. Hi everyone, with Alpha 3.23.1 out of the door, our team has shifted focus to closing out what we had previously called Alpha 3.23.2. During internal testing of the upcoming patch, we determined that its substantial updates justify labeling it as version 3.24. This change in version number doesn't indicate any changes to the patch itself or any future patches. Rather, it aligns with what we consider to be a major update. We're excited for you to experience additions such as, and I listed this off already, freight elevators, storage access, previously known as item banks, personal instance hangers, new cargo hauling missions, and more, all of which aim to make a lasting impact on the verse. You'll soon see the updated version number in the launcher as we release Ivocati, PTU builds, and corresponding feedback threads. Additionally, this adjustment will be reflected on the roadmap, which will be updated next week. Keep a close eye on Spectrum for updates too, and we'll see you in game. Cool. If you're listening to this podcast, sounds good. Awesome. High five. Let's move on. Unfortunately, that's not the case. The community decided that this would be a clickbait opportunity, and for likes and attention, get on there and say, they're planning to delay everything. If they call it 324, it gives them justification to delay it into Q3 or Q4. We're probably not going to see it until 2025. What? Like, what information? Like, you can say, precedent. This is how I experienced the game. I'm such a tenured, crusty, salty gamer that this is just what Star Citizen has done to poor little me. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. You can take that approach, right? Well, there's no data. There's no factual evidence that says that they're delaying anything. The only indicator is that if you are closely watching the Evocati PTU, like the server testing or the SE testing channels on Spectrum, you can kind of see where things have been set back for a couple of days. 323.2, or I guess 324, is hitting Evocati probably today, but it was supposed to have hit like 2 weeks ago. But that doesn't mean that all of a sudden they're going to just, push everything back and Pyro is now going to be 2030. I don't know. I don't want to be sarcastic here. Everybody has the right to have their own opinion, but it seems like the opportunity or the capital gain of a slight issue or a decision that a studio makes. You got this advantageous content creator who just wants to get out there in front and say, CIG delaying everything. We're screwed as gamers. And calm down. Calm down. This is just a naming convention, right? It's just a naming convention. I think Tyler came out, and I've been looking for this for a very long time. And I can't find it. I have never been able to find it, but somebody showed on X where Tyler, head of community, stated that we're not getting storage access or item banks in 324. I don't know. I'm looking at this right here. I'm looking at this and it says it is. So as of June 19th, 2 days ago, 5:36 a.m., according to this, storage access and item banks are still in. And if I scroll down to replies, I don't see where any gold name, so the CIG employees, their names are in gold. I just don't see anywhere where things are being delayed. And it's nowhere in the announcements. It's nowhere in the SC testing chat. So I don't know. I'm going to continue to, on this podcast, I'm going to continue to put the source information in front of you. No weird Reddit posts. No, well, this content creator, because they have 10,000 viewers, I'm going to trust their word. It's going to come straight from the website. And right now, the websites are not showing any delay in anything. They're attempting 324 in Evocati. I've already said this. Today, hopefully, we'll see how that goes. The tech preview went live yesterday, and I'll respond to that here in the next segment. I don't know. Everybody just needs to calm down. And I know that there's 11 years of a built-up sentiment and whatever, but we're talking about a naming convention. And so if you go on social media, you're going to see ups and downs. You're going to see some nonsense, right? I don't know. How do you feel about it? That's going to be our Q&A. just like last week's was about the banning accounts. I'm curious what your thoughts are about this naming convention. I don't think it's that big of a deal. There's no data that supports that it's a big deal. They just think it's a large enough patch to earn its own chapter. What are your thoughts? Okay. All right, tech preview channel. First off, did you like my bumper? I found the oh shit audio soundbite I've been looking for the longest time. I think it's freaking hilarious. So anytime we have drama, I'm dropping that, the bumper. So here we go. Tech preview. All right, this was exciting. This was announced earlier in the week, kind of a surprise that they were going to put server meshing out in front of the community to all backers. The initial release was like 4 to 6 hours sometime later this week. Well, we got word that it was yesterday, right? So yesterday, I think it was U.S. Central Time. I think it was 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. That little window, 3 hours. Pretty sure. But I was able to participate in I think the first 2 hours, so 2 to 4. I was at work, So I was working over here on my work laptop, but I had this up so I could just participate and have it up. Now I wasn't actually gaming. I was just logged in to make sure I was helping contribute. It was a hot mess. It was a hot mess, but we expected it to be a hot mess. Like, I don't know. It's a tech preview channel. Like, they actually went in proactively and said, you're going to hate this experience. It's not for the faint of heart. It's going to implode. They gave you this insight when they announced that the tech preview channel was going to happen. And yet again, social media blew up with, oh, we're not ready for 4.0. Server meshing's not ready. I guarantee you, they are breaking things on purpose to see how to fix it proactively. To the article. All right, starting today, this was yesterday, starting today at 2 p.m. Central, we will be running a 2 to 5 hour play test, depending on new hardware stability, on the tech preview channel to test a more efficient hardware setup with a slightly lower amount of players per VM. Test instructions. For the meshing tech preview, do not try to join Pyro. Okay, this is funny. I went in there and I didn't know this, so I was one of the first ones. It was like 2:01. I had already like preloaded my folder, which, by the way, keep your folders, like your Star Citizen folders, your live, PTU, tech preview, keep the folders there. Delete the files inside of it so you're not taking up 300 gigabytes on your computer. But delete all the files, keep the folders, so that way, whenever you know a tech preview channel is like coming on board, just copy the files inside your live, copy it down to the tech preview, and it'll expedite your download process where you're not having to download 100 gigabytes all over, right? So, pro advice, pro tip. So I got in like 2:01, and I was able to get in. I got in. I was able to leave my hab. I picked like New Babbage or something. I don't know why. But I woke up. I left the hab. I got all the way to the spaceport, and then the first 30K happened. After that, I was unable to get into the game, and that's after choosing Pyro. I'll get into that story in a second. But that's after choosing Pyro and getting bricked and whatever. But I was able to get in. I got to the spaceport. I got 30K'd. And then, like I said, I was never able to get back in. I would have the infinite loading screen, or just 10, 15 minutes later, I'm still kind of on the lobby screen. So it wasn't, I couldn't really experience what they were trying to accomplish. And I don't have any other feedback. We have, and I'll show you the testing chat channel here in a second, that has like the latest and greatest, and there's some notes there. But they're going to try again over the weekend. I think today, but they're going to try again over the weekend. The bricking piece. So when you first logged into the tech preview, you could choose your systems. You know how you create your character, which they used the old character system, by the way, because it was a 322 build. You choose your starting location, or your respawn, or your primary residence. There you go. When you click on choose your system, Pyro was an option. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna choose Pyro. I didn't know any better, so I chose Pyro, and they call it bricking. So it like freezes your ability to really do anything. And now, like later, I go into the SC testing chat. I discover, oh crap, you weren't supposed to click on Pyro. And sure enough, here is like testing instructions. Number 1, do not try to join Pyro, as this will brick your account until you recopy. This test is for stand only. So that was fun. I had to learn the hard way, but I shared that on Twitter like I do, trying to help others before they had to experience what I had to experience, and hopefully that helped a few. But there you go. Let's read about the actual tech preview. This is super interesting. This test will have each Stanton shard split into 3 authoritative zones for about 200 total players each mesh. We are mainly looking for server performance. It will be running an older 322 build for Alpha Bravo testing compared to the previous meshing tests we have run. We will be doing many server captures over the length of the test to gather performance data. During the test, missions may not function completely, obviously. You may have to avoid them, but otherwise play as normal. Spread out around Stanton's moons and planets, run cargo, dogfight. As this is an older build, we are not looking for bug reporting on gameplay issues unless they are very specific to server issues. There you go. And again, this is for all backers. It was 2 to 5 hours. I don't know. I find that super interesting. Server meshing is going to be, it's going to be amazing. It's 4.0. Again, it's this, I'm gonna dumb this down very, 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 very low. It is basically like Pyro is on a server, Stanton is on a server. Can you seamlessly transfer between the two and have them quote unquote meshed? Let's just leave it there. Guys, I know there's a lot more. And we've talked about the tech pillars many times on this podcast, but that is dumbing it down to the most basic understanding of server meshing. So basically taking a lot of people in another shard and putting them all together and having them exist with each other. Boom. There you go. Done. All the while, replication layers in the background. So the client is attached to the replication layer, and the replication layer is attached to the servers. So if the servers go down, you're attached to the replication layer so you don't lose your progress. Cool story. One of these days I can go into the actual tech. I don't know. If we want to spend 30 minutes on it, we could talk about the tech pillars, or you can go back and listen to 62 episodes of this podcast where we talk about it significantly. Okay. We have 2 more segments: Inside Star Citizen, the weapons content team, and then we have the Loremakers Q&A that we'll end with. The Inside Star Citizen, this was a really awesome episode. It was different. Now, they've done this format before, but it was different in the sense that it celebrated the team for who they are, beyond what they create as assets for the game that you love. Right? So it's a long one. It's like around 20 minutes. And I would say the first half is getting to know the content creators, the weapon content team artists. I think they deserve a spot on this podcast. We've always been about the team, the CIG team. We've always celebrated them for who they are as the masterminds behind this gaming experience we all love. So I'm just going to play through it. I'm not going to respond to much in the first half. I'm probably actually going to take a break and lay back and let you just listen. But it is good to know the who's and the hows that these individuals got to where they are today. And then there's some really awesome gold nuggets at the very, very, very end. A couple of new items that are coming to us, some cool aesthetic items, and then we will end with the Loremakers Q&A. So without further ado, let me pull this up, maximize the screen. I'm going to go on mute. Y'all enjoy the video if you're on YouTube. If you're on podcast, enjoy Jared's amazing voice. We'll leave it there. Here we go.
Welcome back to Inside Star Citizen, the only weekly behind-the-scenes docuseries showcasing the faces, features, and forward progress being forged in the first-person universe of Star Citizen. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee. Now, with Alpha 3.23 recently out, testing ongoing for the 3.23.2 cargo and hangar patch, and development turning its full attention to the upcoming major milestone that is Alpha 4.0 later this year, we're in one of those periods of ISC production where we like to experiment with the means and manner of the stories we tell. Because like the developers making the very game that we're covering, we want to try new things and new ways of doing what we do. So for the next 3 weeks, ISC will be a bit different than you might normally expect. That means we're going to spend a little more time than normal getting to know the folks themselves as opposed to just what they're working on. Things like asking the UK networking team to film a sort of dev diary on those major server meshing tests from earlier this year. Chat with the level design team to discuss their process and how they're taking all those things they learned in Stanton and applying it to Pyro. And this week, getting to know some folks specializing in the implements of first-person destruction. Now, of course, the ISCs that are driven by specific feature and content work will still continue after this short detour. But we hope that you'll indulge us once again in our effort to share some more personalized stories for the next few weeks. And then, of course, we'll be back with the big flashy stuff soon enough. And don't forget, CitizenCon is just 4 months away. 4 months away! Did we just do one? So that's enough of me. Let's meet the first of 3 teams over 3 weeks that don't often get the ISC spotlight in a feature that we like to call Meet the Team Weapon Content Team. Meet the Weapon Content Team. Good old WCT. Let's just meet them. Why have you avoided the camera in the last 5 years?
I
A bit nervous.
How long ago did you start here?
8 months ago,
8 months
almost
ago?
9. Yeah,
How's it been?
it's been great. I like it.
How many of these do you think you've done at this point? I can't keep track.
This is the 5th.
This is the 5th one? Do you like doing these?
Yes, because I'm an attention seeker.
There's definitely more lights than I was expecting, to be fair, but it's pretty bright. A little nervous, Yeah.
I used to be a life model before I came here, so
Used to be a what?
life model. So once you've had people draw you naked, it's pretty hard to get awkward around anything.
Not nervous at all?
Not really, no. Not too bad.
Cool.
Depends what the questions are.
How prepared are you for this?
I have been in meetings since I walked in, and I have done nothing up until today.
Phil! Phil, be quiet! The microphone's right there! The microphone's right there in front of your mouth.
So they're just going through existing vehicles, or existing weapons.
We're definitely
right
a spaceship game, but a core aspect of that is definitely the FPS side of it as well. A lot of our players enjoy flying around the spaceships, but they also enjoy the aspect of being able to be boots on the ground and exploring the world from the first-person perspective.
The weapon content team are the team that are responsible for any weapon you see in-game, pretty much.
It's the team that creates the artwork and animation for Star Citizen and Squadron 42.
We make really cool looking guns. Lots of guns.
Melee weapons, FPS weapons, large capital size turret weapons, fire extinguishers, multi-tools.
We're just a group of people that just, I guess, find firearms is the most interesting part of the 3D art space.
So it's called Meet the Team. So let's start where content starts and meet Alberto.
Tell me about Alberto.
I like spaceships.
He's not wrong.
I started in a mixed role in a little company in Germany called Egosoft, and there I was doing spaceships, both 3D and both concept. Then I moved here because I was always very passionate of the universe of Star Citizen.
His pathway is just insane. I think he designed, luxury yachts or something, so yeah.
So yachts, planes, everything that was not a car, basically.
Alberto is an incredible concept artist. The concept artist kind of facilitates the development of the idea.
We get the brief, the words, and we translate it to something visual. In my opinion, that's the most creative part.
Alberto's great. I mean, he's a pleasure to work with. I've only had really good experiences talking to him. He provides so little friction when working with him. He's genuinely really good at what he does. He does a lot of the problem solving for you.
What's your relationship like with Alberto?
90% pranks.
Understand what?
Pranks.
Pranks?
Yes.
Like what?
Flipping the screen from each other, like changing the sensitivity of the mouse when he just turn around, something like that.
We really have to fight this guy.
Is that a productive use of your time, Samuel?
If I do it fast. Yeah.
Samuel's one of our newer concept artists in the company. He is very excited about the project and very passionate about everything that we do as a company.
How do you think other people see Sam Brito?
Oh, that's a great question.
I would say he have this positive vibe to him. He's the doctor.
Sam is fun, getting better and better. He's super young, super talented.
Absolute bundle of joy from a different culture coming from Venezuela. Lots of interesting stories and really approachable, and just overall the same things I say about Alberto. I can go to him, I can talk about what he's working on, and the concepts he provides are of an extremely high quality.
He's really keen to kind of start working and get a little bit more involved with the weapon side of concepting rather than just the vehicles. Every time we mention it, he's like, "Oh, can I do it? Can I do it?" So yeah, he's super excited about it, which is great. I always kind of think that the more passionate people are about the subject they're working on, the better the results you're going to get. We've got Alexi, who's our weapons lead. He joined us a year and a half ago, I want to say. He's been a great addition to the team.
I decided to work on the video games because I always wanted to help people, not necessarily when they're already ill, because I have a medical degree, but it never worked out for me because down the line, I decided that I wanted to bring happiness and not cure the aftermath of it.
Did you know that he got his degree to be a doctor?
What? No, I didn't know. I guess I'd like him to be my doctor. I'd probably trust him.
I really enjoyed the video games like almost anyone. But at some point it struck to me that real people do them, and I just started to look around and see what I can do, how I can start to make video games, and that's how I ended up as a 3D artist.
Very laid-back guy, has a really good eye for stuff that you can so easily miss. Like he'll pick out stuff I can't even see.
Since he's joined in, the optimization of our work has just flown through the roof. He's a really valuable member of the team, and I definitely consider him a friend. He's a really nice guy.
He's created quite a driving force for the team across both our projects.
Alexi is okay at table tennis.
Just okay?
Yeah, he's okay.
We've got Talon.
I'm one of the key weapon artists here, so I work on creating the 3D models and creating the weapons, the gadgets, hand grenades, and every other kind of thing you can think of that the player might use in the FPS aspect of the game.
Talon, what I say, is a super passionate weapons artist. He's big into sort of airsoft and milsim and that side of things.
The fountain of all knowledge when it comes to weaponry.
I don't think there's anyone that knows more about guns than Talon.
Does it operate correctly? Where does it take its influences from? And I think that's really important.
He's just a great person to have on the team, nice and approachable, and always up for a bit of a laugh. And joining him's Ben as well, who's another artist too.
What do you think other people say about you?
I'm very quiet, so I'm not sure.
Definitely the life of the party, which you wouldn't expect, noticing that after a few drinks. He's definitely the circle of attention.
He's been a great addition to the team. He's technically our newest member of the team, but he's still been here a couple of years.
I'd say in some ways his artwork is quite sometimes better than mine. He really knows his way around Blender.
He has such a keen eye for details on the weapon.
You can just kind of throw anything at him and know that you're going to get a really solid result out of it. We've got Joel. Originally, I hired Joel as a prop artist probably close to 8 years ago.
I create the artwork for FPS devices, which includes weapons, gadgets. I also make ship weapons.
Joel's actually the most senior member of the team and was there when I first joined. He was an extremely helpful person to encounter.
Very easygoing, super knowledgeable, always has a pun ready.
He has some really strange T-shirts. Every other day he comes in with a new T-shirt with something weird on it, and I'm a bit jealous because every time I see them, I kind of wish I'd had the idea of buying them.
I like T-shirts. This one, it's The Simpsons. Everyone likes The Simpsons, right?
What about your producer?
Oh yeah, don't let me forget Kieran. He's Mr. getting things done and getting things done on time, so he's brilliant.
I quickly realised I didn't want to be an artist or a programmer. I started out in level design, and then I found out that my passion was the team.
Without Kieran, there wouldn't be weapon content because he's the guy who glue it all together, you know.
Eats a lot of eggs. Brings in about 4 eggs a day or something like that, so. That's the only bad thing I can think about Kieran.
So next up is our animator, Jordan. He couldn't make it into the office today, but we love him and he's great. I mean, I've been working with Jordan for years on the weapon. Since I took over, he was always there.
Jordan have a really, really shiny personality. He's the one person that you can reach out with anything related to animation. He is here to support you.
Always has a lot of like stories and anecdotes.
He's also a little bit scary because he knows where everyone lives, and it's unclear when he gets or how he gets the information he does, but when you join the team, within the first few weeks, maybe the first few months, he knows exactly where you are on Google Maps. And for that reason, he is terrifying.
Yet he can't be here to film for this.
No. Jordan, you could have been here for this. We really need you. Where are you, Jordan?
And I'm Ben, the art director. And that's enough about me, so let's look at some weapons we've been working on.
All right, here we go. So first off, my reactions to all that. Two takeaways. It's amazing that the tenure on their team, like the newest member, was a couple years at this point. Like that shows like tenure is a good thing. Consistency, persistent consistency, right? So I think that's really awesome to see from a team who's trying to get something done. I'm a senior product manager. I have a team. Tenure means a lot, right? That's tribal knowledge. You try to standard work, you try to create SOPs, all that crap. But tenure has just innate tribal knowledge that makes your team work faster and more proficient. So that's super exciting. I also liked hearing the stories of how they came up. They weren't always in game development. You had a doctor, right? You had a medical degree that converted into game design. It's very hard to get into the gaming industry. It's extremely hard. Even me as a senior product manager that is a producer, so a PM in other roles and a producer in video games, it's basically the same thing. You get into like a little bit of a dynamic, like Scrum training or like Scrum meetings. You have to be a Scrum master. Agile training our Agile framework is super important. So maybe it's a little bit different world than just your normal product management. But at the end of the day, it's all the same. It's the same principles, different widget. There you go. Anyways, it's still very difficult to get into the gaming industry. And it's not so much, I've heard it said before, that it's like the good boy system or the good old boy system, whatever phrase or analogy I'm trying to use, that you have to know somebody to get in. I mean, it helps. I'm not going to lie. It helps. But it's just so... it's gated. It's gated so much to get into this industry. Like tenure, like I just said, I just went on a little rant about tenure. It's hard to hire new individuals that are just going to up and work on the weapons team because there's so much built in to the history of what they're trying to build. So I don't know. If you're trying to get into the gaming industry, good luck to you. I wish you the best. But like, lower your expectations, lower your standards. Maybe expect to get into like an indie game studio and then work your way up to a Bethesda or I don't know, I'm trying to think of, I say Blizzard, I don't really want to use Blizzard as an example, but one of these like major studios, Ubisoft, there you go. I don't know why I went on that tangent. But it's just cool to see these humans, humanizing the person behind the keyboard, and that they are developing something really awesome for us. So let's get into these new guns. I'll react at the very end. There's one that I really love and I'm excited to talk about. So here we go.
We've got quite a few weapons that are being worked on. We can talk about a couple of them today. So first up, we're going to talk about the PAAR.
PAAR is a assault rifle that may fill the role of someone that wanted something bigger from bearing manufacturer.
Up until now, it's been our squadron exclusive rifle. In fact, I've had backers come up to me saying, please release the PAAR.
And what we want to do is take that P8 base and do a version that was slightly more tailored towards the civilian market.
A lot bigger and a little bit longer than the current P4AR, and personally, one of my favorite weapons that we've ever worked on.
It is kind of more in line with civilian needs, so it's had a little bit of lightning done to it. It's had some of the more aggressive visuals tidied up a touch.
We did a redesign of the stock.
and it's had a bunch of new skins and variants done for the consumer market.
Why not just put the one from Squadron in?
The honest answer is we want to kind of hold that back for Squadron, I guess. It is one of the main weapons you use throughout the campaign, and we still want that to feel unique and special. It's one of the things that we do kind of want to hold back as a bit of a hero experience. It is the standard issue, I think is the correct way of saying it, military weapon for the UEE. It's a workhorse, it's reliable, it's functional, and it just gets the job done.
So the Volt rifle is another new weapon that we're releasing in the PU. A brand new manufacturer for the weapon content team. Volt are a electric and beam ammunition type, using electric batteries to power their weapons.
They're very techy. They feel very professionally homemade. It's not thrown together, but also it's not professionally manufactured.
This is the manufacturer who relies on cheap produced goods, but they still wanted it to look cool and shiny, but they are not really reliable in terms of long-term use.
We wanted a manufacturer where people could use these weapons and then they could also repair and upgrade and kind of, they look like you would be able to strip them down and kind of field repair them or work in your...
It's like the Drake of weapon systems. I had to.
Workshop in your ship or in your habs or wherever, and kind of really get into the nitty-gritty of how these weapons work. So there's a lot of visual cues to that with, like how the screen attaches, all the little kind of fittings and screws and how it all kind of comes together. That visually is something quite nice and exciting, I think.
There's anything like this in a PU as of now. This will suit more of the guys who wanted to show off rather than to be military-style weapons. You will have some shiny, cool gun that you can show to your friends and say, there, I did it. This is a really cool-looking gun.
I've always been a little bit opposed to very big flashy lasers and electricity on firearms. I think it can drift away from my idea of traditional firearm. But I think working within the confines of what Volt as manufacturer are, being a home-built kit that you could order online supposedly and manufacture yourself, I think really fits into the idea of it being more of a fun ammunition type.
This is still work in progress, but you can see the direction where it's going.
So the Pyro SMG, this is something very different to any of our mainstream manufacturers.
A very small handheld submachine gun, similar to I think a real-world example would be a Tech 9.
And the whole idea with this kind of pyro weapon theme is that these things have been made by just people living on the fringes of the universe. They've used whatever they can get their hands on to make something that works for them.
Imagine Mad Max type of gun that was scraped with everything that you can find around.
Sort of break the art conventions that we've been working with for the last however many years.
Internally, we call them non because they doesn't have any manufacturer.
It's made by a guy named Steve.
Yeah, you can say so.
The fact that it's very compact and small allows you to hook very tightly on corners, giving yourself a very low exposure when peeking corners or peeking over cover, and has an extremely high rate of fire, so very good for those really close encounters, but I wouldn't be using it at long ranges due to the lack of a stock.
They're really quite cool weapons to work on and look forward to using maybe more in the future.
This is the weapon that I am super excited for. It's the Ultiflex Novia crossbow. Here we go.
Where the hell is my crossbow?
Do you know what? Chris brought the crossbow up recently. He was like, are we going to finish it? And I'm like, well, it's kind of there. There was one thing stopping us with the way the bolts interacted with stuff that we couldn't do at the time.
The fabled crossbow is an asset that we in the weapon concept team have been trying to get pushed out for a long time now.
At the point of creation this crossbow, it was decided that the bolts needs to stuck when you fire them and not disappear like any other bullet. And this prevented the release of the crossbow because we cannot consistently make the bolts stuck.
It's just a super advanced, cool-looking crossbow. It's got these really cool, like, deploying bolts in it because obviously, we don't really want to carry around these massive, great big kind of quiver of arrows. So it's got these really nice kind of compact little bolts that load into it.
Adding more unique firearms and ways to take out enemies silently is something that the game would definitely benefit from, and so seeing the crossbow come out into the PU would be something that made me extremely happy, and I know a lot of the players have been asking me about this too.
It sounds so good.
Not directly involved with weapon content, but still working on the weapons, audio guys and VFX guys. We're working with them directly, and they make our gun shines and sings.
I'll have done my part of the artwork, it'll have gone down the production line, and a few months later I'll bring it into the editor just to remind myself of what I worked on, and I'll shoot it and hear some incredible audio and be like, oh wow, someone's gone all out on this one.
They're a downstream team that, much like animation, it really brings to life this otherwise static.
That is super interesting. In that last little clip, let me actually go back real quick. Let's see if I can find it. Come on, right? And I might actually be going too far. What I was trying to show you is the exit of the rounds. Here, let me just play it. I'll pause it.
And they make our gun shines and sings.
I'll have done my part of the artwork, it'll have gone down the production line, and a few months later I'll bring it into the editor just to remind myself of what I worked on, and I'll shoot it and hear some incredible audio and be like, oh wow, someone's gone all out on this one.
That is so realistic. It makes me happy. When your cartridge ejects, first off, your rifle system, and we're talking ballistics here, all right? So like in real life, when your cartridge ejects, first off, it's an explosion happening inside of your rifle. There's gunpowder and smoke going everywhere. It's got to go somewhere, right? So usually at the end of your barrel, you've got a distributor, like it releases the debris in a certain direction, so this doesn't happen, what you see in front of you. It's like a plume of smoke, but you also have, like, when the cartridge ejects, you've got projectile, right? You've got a debris and smoke coming out of the cartridge ejector. So when you're in a dark environment like this and you're firing weapons, ballistic weapons, obviously, this is a real situation. It's a real situation. And the problem that we had whenever we were in combat, you would have infrared, right? So you would have your nods on, and you would have like a PEC 3. Good Lord, I'm getting the nomenclature wrong. But you had the PEC system, which is like the infrared laser attached to the end of your rifle, and no one could see it unless you had an infrared nod on, and so you would lace your target, you'd fire, but it's based off of like heat, right? There's also heat issues. So if you were wearing black hot, white hot, night vision, you would have this plume of smoke. So you used infrared, but even infrared would get distorted by this a little bit. And then heaven forbid you're in this situation where you have no nods on at all whatsoever. You're seeing this white smoke in front of you. It is so realistic to be aiming at something and firing, and because of the environment, you're not able to keep your sight picture, right? Because of this. So in this picture I have frozen right now, you can't see your target because it's covered by smoke. I love that dynamic. I think it's a little bit overdone. Like I think it's probably too much, but the spirit of what they were trying to capture is phenomenal. So I just want to celebrate that piece of this video.
They're a downstream team that, much like animation, it really brings to life this otherwise static and fairly boring object.
Their work is incredible. I've tried to tell them at some point I want to see them add the lead pipe 01 sound effect into the game, but I've yet to get an approval on that one.
Game development is a group effort. When it comes out great, it's just a miracle at some point of a lot of people involved into it.
It is still a first-person game, and I think that, the work we do is important. I hope we're a significant part of your interaction with Star Citizen.
I do enjoy it when, I see people having fun and, enjoying the weapons we've created and put into the, the Star Citizen universe. There's a big community of people that take, like in-game captures and screenshots and stuff, and seeing people take pictures of your work is really nice.
I would like people to know that the feedback they give us, especially on our team, means a whole lot.
When we see a comment come up about something with the firearms that people might not like, we do take that on board. If it's not applied to the weapon they're speaking about, we'll try and avoid it on future ones. We're always learning.
And if there has been a weapon that you really enjoy using, or is your favourite weapon, then please do let us know in the comments, because the team will love to hear that sort of feedback. With our recent releases, you've seen a whole bunch of updates to how the weapons feel, how they function, and really bring some of those quality and life improvements to the weapons as a whole. And that's just taken a lot of hard work from the weapons department as a whole department, art, design, animation, audio, VFX, like the whole lot. And they've not had a great deal of limelight in these sort of events, but they're super dependable, and I'm very happy to kind of be able to get to talk about them today.
So what did we learn this week? Well, hopefully we learned a lot more about the people that make up the current iteration of the weapon content team. That there's a whole host of new weapons making their way into the persistent universe. And that spaceships, of course, may dominate the conversation a lot of the time. But there's plenty of other ways to bring damage, death, and destruction to the universe of the first person being built. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the people and process of game development with you. And we'll see you all here next week.
And there is like a deleted scene or bonus scene of the penguin. You're seeing it here. So for those of you on podcast, 1 second. Turn this down a little bit. So you've got Pico the penguin has one of the new crossbows taking out a couple of ninetails. I find it hilarious, but so I'll let those of you on YouTube watch. But for podcasts, it's a little bit less entertaining. And there you have it. Awesome. All right, let's do this. Let's get everything ready for the last segment, Loremakers Community questions. Sharing my screen, and we're not going to go through every single one of these, but I want to at least read the titles, right? So NPC mission givers, Navy exploration, Van Duel aftermath, the signage in the verse, where's the Imperator? So Imperator Addison is our current Imperator. Unions during the Messer regime, Lost colony ships, People's Alliance locations, the Moraine, what hunts the storm walls. So if anything I said, or any of the topics I said interest you, go check it out. They're all here with a Q&A attached to each one. For me, I put my reaction to this, I put a tweet out specifically about hunting the storm walls. Because I think when we saw the Merrics and the Copians come out, one of the first things that we started seeing was like hunting parties. Now that's a game loop. There's a game loop for it. But before there was even a game loop, there was a desire to go kill them all, right? So my very first post on this was about the storm walls. And so like the question, what hunts the storm walls? I'll read you their initial answer and then I'll tell you my post. So here we go. Answer. For the most part, storm walls don't have predators. Like the blue whale on Earth, they are so enormous that it takes a huge amount of effort to kill them. Predators don't really like putting more work into killing than they put into eating. Humans, who have the benefit of ships and weapons to do the job for them, are about the only things out there that prey on storm walls. Let's hope that they don't end up hunting them to extinction. And so my post was like, Star Citizen. They're so enormous, it takes a huge amount of effort to kill them. Star Citizen Community. Challenge accepted. So, if you put anything into the verse, I have a feeling that we're going to find a way to kill it. Challenge accepted. And I don't want to like fantasize, if that's even like the right verb. I don't really want to fantasize Star Citizen to the point of like, you have a boss fight when you have like ships that are attacking this alien. Like, no, I don't think Star Citizen needs to go that direction. But it would be kind of funny. Actually, it would be really cool. Now that I think about it, hold on, I'm pivoting. In Star Wars, when they took out the Death Star, that could be a good raid. Like maybe XenoThreat's been effing around with Stanton for 11 years, Maybe there is a time in the future where we go, like maybe XenoThreat has like a base in Stanton, call it a Death Star. And it's an org's responsibility, a raid team, but an org's responsibility to go and take it out. Okay. I can see that being like a fantastical type raid. But I think like taking out like an alien or like a space whale, no. I hope Star Citizen never gets to that point. I don't know. I could be wrong. Who knows? Maybe Chris Roberts has a thing for group attacking aliens. Anyways, thank y'all so much for hanging around in episode 63. If you want to become part of the conversation, you could do so by responding to our Spotify Q&A and polls like we do at the end of every single episode. Hop on over to Spotify, answer quickly, and you'll be part of next week's episode. You can also email us at contact. What is contact? You can email us at contact@beyondtheversehq.com for any questions, comments, concerns, emotional outbursts, anything that you want to discuss. I'll vet it first, obviously, but more than likely discuss it on next week's episode as well. You could also join our social media at /BTV_cast, and we record all of our podcasts on video that you can watch at YouTube /BTV_cast. Join our in-game organization, Sole Provision, at www.robertspaceindustries.com /orgs/provision. Very important as we start entering 324's cargo hauling. That is where Sole Provision's going to truly shine. We're working on our own game loop that'll it's very involving. Right now we're taking out bounties. We're followed we have a 100 kill team that will take out the bounty. You've got a salvaging team that will come and salvage. Then you've got an actual logistics team that'll come and take all of that material and go sell it. It's a fun game loop that we're trying to mature and optimize. Cannot wait to see what cargo hauling has in store for us. So join us. It'll be amazing. I hope this finds everybody well. Safe travels as you traverse beyond the verse. Take care, everybody.